Can you trust in this place? In whom can I put my faith? If you're real.
Any negative things out there within media, within music, within just what they can get access to on the internet.
Bombarded by mass media.
Well, I think they're in a different age. Computer technology has ruled the world.
Put my faith.
How do you think middle schoolers have changed over time?
I think one of the biggest changes we have with middle schoolers is the availability of information, good and bad. With the advent of the internet, cell phones, they're exposed to a lot more. So it's harder to keep middle schoolers maybe have values when they're exposed to so many negative things out there within media, within music, within just what they can get access to on the internet.
What differences do you see between teens today and when you were a teen?
It seemed in my generation there were fewer and more simple choices, regardless of whatever you were going to do. I mentioned to you earlier about music. There seemed like a finite amount of music that you could listen to. Today, there's so many genres, so many artists. You go out on YouTube and it's overwhelming. I don't know how you even, get your mind around.
We didn't need a cell phone glued to our hip, and we didn't have devices that, we could go out on the web and find out what's happening just like that. So I think it's teaching is a different style than we were used to. I think you can do so much more now than you could do years ago.
There's so much more to do. Games, electronic games, etc., they didn't exist. And I think that's all a factor. We get caught up in all of this stuff which comes into our society, and it becomes the way.
Who or what do you think is to blame for these changes in the generations?
Wow, that's a big one. We are so bombarded by mass media and massive amounts of instant information in just about every spectrum of life that you could look.
Do you feel music has made an impact on the youth of today?
Yes. Negatively.
Yeah. The words, even though they want to say it's just the beat, we like the beat, the words do get into your head, and there's a lot of negativity in the song.
Disrespect.
Yeah.
And depending on what messages are being transmitted in the music that a teenager is listening to, it could have definitely a significant impact on their thought processes and their choices, especially at that tender age of life.
Do you think Christianity is looked down upon in schools?
Yeah, I think it is. It's definitely harder to progress your faith in a school because so many unbelievers.
We just heard not so long last night from the superintendent of our district that the number of unchurched and to the extent that we relate our faith to discipline and certain values, the number of unchurched individuals today relative to, say, my generation would be much greater. I think 80% was the number that was thrown out.
Is abstinence important anymore?
I think it is really important. I think it's a lot harder in today's society and this world, and the world tells us to do what we want and find pleasure with other people, but I think abstinence is a very good idea to keep sacred, and especially in the Christian faith. And so, yeah.
Do you feel that teenagers in general are more or less disciplined than they used to be?
I'm going to say probably less, a little bit less. I think because I think they feel like sometimes they're entitled, the sense of entitlement maybe that they shouldn't have, because they can get so much faster, so much easier than maybe when I was younger, or maybe even 10, 15 years ago.
What's different between how you raise your teens and how your parents raised you?
A lot.
Yeah.
I had very strict rules for everything.
There was no back talking, no even questioning. When your parents asked you to do something, you did it.
Even if you thought the teacher was wrong or somebody, an adult was wrong, you never were disrespectful, ever. Or it was worse when you got home.
And back when we were more done on fear, and then we were fear, but I think there's more self-discipline right now. I think they want to do it because they want to do it, not because their parents do want to do it for their parents. So.
Do you think the parenting styles have become too lenient?
To some extent, they probably have. You're not allowed to swat your kid anymore in the rear end.
Who has a bigger influence in your life, your parents or your friends?
Friends have a big influence on me, but I think my parents give me more of an influence because they're my parents. They set the rules for me. They keep me accountable with my faith, and so I'd say my parents.
Things were a little bit more rigid. Maybe children, teenagers were more disciplined or more intimidated by discipline. And today there's a tendency to be more lenient.
What is the differences do you see between teens today and when you were teens?
The biggest difference I see is respect towards parents and respect towards elders.
Who is to blame?
Parents.
Parents.
How can I love without grace? Shine a light on your face if you